So a few weeks after the launch of Elden Ring, March 17th to be exact, we received a patch which was 1.03, and there were a couple of hefty nerfs within that patch, one of them being the Sword of Night and Flame. However, I used it shortly after, and I realised that the nerf wasn't that big, especially when you compared it to Hoarfrost Stomp. With Hoarfrost Stomp, they not only reduced the amount of damage it deals, but they also increased the casting time, and it pretty much made it like completely obsolete. There's no point running that skill at all anymore. Whereas the Sword of Night and Flame felt like a little bit more of a balance rather than just a straight up nerf it into the ground. And I've been thinking about doing something like this for the last week or so, because I have a feeling that the Sword of Night and Flame can go into a build and it will be the best legendary build in the whole of Elden Ring. When I say legendary, it's because the sword itself has that orange glow when you open up the chest that contains it, which means it is a legendary armament. And when I say the best build in the game, I don't mean the most powerful, I don't mean the most efficient, I mean this is a build that has survived a nerf. There wasn't a lot of stuff that was nerfed, it was mainly just the Sword of Night and Flame and Hoarfrost Stomp. So there were a few changes, however there were buffs as well in that patch, so it wasn't all bad. It wasn't a negative look for the game. Arcane got fixed and now like Bleed Arcane builds are some of the most powerful in the game. But Sword of Night and Flame, I still think that you can run this in a build, you can run it efficiently, but you can no longer really use the magic side of it. I would strongly recommend if you are going to run this in a build, you run the flame side of the Night and Flame stance skill. So just quickly before we get any further into the video, if you are not currently subbed to the channel, make sure you do sub, turn notifications on. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, all support is greatly appreciated. And if you want to support me further as a creator, then check out the links in the description, and let's get into it. So the very first thing I did was changed up my armor for this. I am running Blide's armor because it looks really good and I want to look good whilst running a good build. If we take a look in my equipment menu, I've got the Sword of Night and Flame at +10 and we are going to be entirely focusing on the flame aspect of this sword and the fire side of it for that portion of the skill, so the flame stance, scales with faith. Lucky for me, my faith is at 65. My stats are all over the place, and yes, I'm level 222, but I'm leveling up all of my stats so that I can run basically an infinite amount of different builds. I can put them together and share them with all of you. So we are going to focus on the faith. You do have some weird requirements. It's 12 strength and dex, 24 intelligence and faith. It also scales at a B tier for intelligence, but that focuses on the knight stance and that is magic scaling. But as of patch 1.03, the knight stance is essentially Comet Azur, and that got nerfed by around 35%, whereas the flame side of it is only about 22.2%. Not only that, with the magic side of the sword, that portion of the skill lost its melee blast, and prior to patch 1.03 that doubled the damage, therefore the nerf was about 70%, or if you factor in Royal Knight's Resolve being fixed as well, it's about an 85% decrease in the damage. Not only that, but the Comet Azur beam also lost half its range, so the magic side of this sword got absolutely battered in the patch, but the flame side survived. Some things to take into consideration with this: both the regular attacks and the weapon's skill will scale with the weapon's attack rating. If you want to use the Comet Azur side of things, it does not count as a sorcery, so you can't use things like the Graven Mass or the Graven Skull Talisman, but it does inflict magic damage, so you can use the Magic Shroud and Crystal tier. You can also run the Magic Scorpion Charm. So with this, what we are going to be doing is buffing it up, And we are going to do that by running the Golden Order Seal, and then the incantations we are going to use is Golden Veil, because it gives us a 15% damage increase and a 10% damage reduction, but we're also going to run Flame Grant Me Strength because that stacks multiplicatively with Golden Veil, and it boosts the attack rating for your physical and your fire damage. Also, what I've done in my offhand is I'm using the Silver Mirror Shield. The reason I've gone for this one is because its weight is really low, and wearing heavy armor, or some of the heavier armor, you don't want to go into a heavy load so you're fat rolling. You want to keep yourself at a medium load. So the Silver Mirror Shield weighs 3.5 and Sword of Night and Flame only weighs 4. Which is the reason I am allowed to run the Black Wolf Mask and then the rest of Blyde's armor. If you take a look there, the weight is 13.7 on the chest alone. So that's the reason I can run all of this stuff and still stay at a medium load. Then what I've done with the talismans is I'm running the Two Fingers Heirloom so that I can raise my faith even further. I'm also using Godric's Great Rune, so my faith is sitting at around 55. I've just buffed it up with a couple of things, which is going to be crucial for what I am going to show you in the showcase towards the end of the video. Then we have the Ritual Sword Talisman. I was going to run Marika's Soreseal to push my faith even higher, but when I had a look at the attack power, Ritual Sword, as long as you're full health, this has a much bigger benefit, because not only will it raise your attack power even more, you're not going to take an extra 15% damage from any damage source, which is one of the downfalls of the Soreseal talismans. So taking a quick look at the attack power, mine is sitting at 840, and I would say that's pretty much where you want it for base, so without using Golden Vow and Flame Grant Me Strength, and I'll show you exactly why in a moment. Then we are running the Shard of Alexander as well, which is going to greatly boost the attack power of skills, and this one does work with the Sword of Night and Flame. And then finally for the talismans, the Fire Scorpion Charm, because it raises the fire attack, however we do lose a little bit of damage negation. Then in the Flask of Wondrous Physic, just in case I do decide to use the Comet Azur side of the sword, I've got the Magic Shrouding Cracked Tier, and then obviously for your fire attacks, I'm running the Flame Shrouding Cracked Tier. So when I come up to a random enemy and I backstab them, typically you'd see, I don't know, say about 800 to maybe 1200 damage, and if we do it with the Sword of Night and Flame, we are getting 1700 from a backstab. So when we get to this big dude, if I drink the flask, then use Golden Vow, then Flame Grant Me Strength, and then I switch over to my shield so I've got extra protection, if I crouch and then come in with the Flame Stance, it deals 4350. So it one-taps that giant in Caria Manor, which is something you would not expect considering this has had a 22.2% nerf, at least on the flame side of it. Then if we come up to my current favourite build testing enemy, the giant up in Mountaintops of the Giants, if I proc everything, the flask is going to last 3 minutes, then a Golden Vow will last 90 seconds, and then Flame Grant Me Strength lasts 30 seconds. But if we have a look at the attack power, it's 1242 with everything buffed. So if I come over to this guy, if I wait for him to, there we go, quick. One attack is 5,400 damage, which granted isn't a huge amount, but it shows that the Sword of Night and Flame, after a big nerf in patch 1.03, is still a very viable weapon to use. And the thing is, because it's not one of the, this is overpowered, so OP, breaking the game, because it's not one of those weapons anymore, everyone seems to have, like, kind of left it on the back burner. They haven't touched it since 1.03. But as we've seen, the Giant in Caria Manor, 4350 on the damage, and then over 5,000 damage in one use of the skill, I would say that's pretty good. So that's why I'm going to say this is the best legendary build in the game, not because it's got the highest DPS, not because it's got the highest raw damage, but because it's still a viable weapon. You can still use it right now and deal a significant amount of damage to enemies, but because it also survived a nerf. Typically, when something does get nerfed, like if you take a look at the magic side of this sword, they don't survive it. They very quickly get outperformed by a lot of other stuff, and loads of people just leave them on the back burner, they move on to other things, and it's basically like night for the weapons. Ever since I started playing this game, and I mean I'm probably about 450, maybe 500 hours in at this stage, I've always loved this weapon, so finally getting around to checking out a build with it, and seeing that it still deals a decent amount of damage, I'm very happy with this sword. But what we are going to do is leave the video there. Let me know your thoughts and stuff about the Sword of Night and Flame in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.